said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy... Flyover State of Fear. Welcome back to Flyover State of Fear. How are you, Brian?
Oh man, I'm good. If I'm half as good as I look, I'm doing fine.
You're looking really good today. Clean. I think you got your beard clean.
I'm shampooed. I got my woke Captain Marvel shirt on, like a real cuck.
You got a real lady on your shirt. That's pretty woke.
I mean, you could say I'm an ally.
That's like how I feel when I walk around with my Produced by Deborah Hill shirt.
Hell yeah.
Like, guys, if you know.
Are you aware?
Are you aware that this is a lady producer and she actually had a bigger hand in Halloween?
Look out.
Look out. No, I like that shirt. But the funny thing is I got it as a gift for someone and two came and then they were like, you take the other one.
Hell yeah, that's red.
Yeah. Anyway, no, it's a cool shirt.
That's a great shirt.
Here's a good shirt. This is just a chicken place. I've been a bum all day.
Yeah, that's fine. Nobody tunes in for the fashion. And if they do, honestly, they probably like your chicken shirt. Your chicken shirt, like kind of like trucker hat vibe. You know, you look good.
I look like I vote questionably.
I always look like that. I walk around this world looking like that.
I like some deep lore between the two of us. Is my Twitter profile stems from a photo I uploaded of me in that Mets hat, like smiling with glasses, and you being like, wow, you look like you attended January 6th. And then I photoshopped it to be the, which are hanging up there, the Jack Frost.
Yeah, I remember.
Nightmare Fuel hybrid. And that all stemmed from you calling me, being like, Joe, it's a little Trumpy.
I was gonna take a picture with some sunglasses in the front seat of my truck real quick, then get that profile photo going.
Driving a boat. It's a good photo. Too bad they ruined it. Too bad that.
Yeah, I mean, they ruined,
exactly like they ruined American flags and good photos and earnest photos of people fishing.
Yeah, earnest photos of men holding up fish.
Yeah. Like, no, I swear.
Videos from the front seat of your car. These things are ruined now.
What if we had the podcast from the front seat of our cars?
I feel like, wasn't there a Rundon Screen Junkies try to do that? They tried to do where they got a sponsorship from a stupid car, but then they got sued by somebody or something because they ripped off the idea.
We'll have to ask
Lon. That's all flashing back to me now all at once.
That's long, but I kind of vaguely remember like a bit or something where it was like car driving.
Yeah, like we're gonna do a review from a car. It's dumb. Anyway, the internet's dumb.
It's not even early internet, but like weird time of like I feel like early like a boom of street.
Not like there was the growth period. Like you have early YouTube, like really early stuff where it was all memes, and then there's that like growth period where more like reviewers and like essayists and stuff were like kind of getting big.
The growth period, and like we're getting sponsors, and they're giving us a lot of money. All right, but anyway. You clicked on this. We're talking about Y2K today, but for the movie by Kyle Mooney that came out in 2024.
I was gonna say, I think maybe like the theatrical release was maybe this year though. Oh, it was in December.
No, it was December. Okay. It was like real brief.
I mean, technically, it makes sense. It's a New Year's movie, so you would want to release it around the holidays.
It just was one of those ones. I feel like in October-ish, and like how there was like. The trailer was really good. I was like, ooh, I want to see that. And then by the time it was actually released, like it got no fanfare ever. And then it was like, it's on HBO Max now.
The only reason I knew about it, I think, is because I saw Kyle Mooney on Seth Meyers. And that's because Seth Meyers always has SNL people on when they have stuff out. Like if an SNL person's got a project, they're going on Seth Meyers.
Yeah. And it's the best talk show.
He really is. I think we've talked about it before.
We've talked about it, and then like I think You Should Leave Live when they came to when they did like their New York show.
Yeah.
And Seth Meyers is one of the guests, and he basically took over the like moderating duties of the panel because the moderator was like not at least it was their first show of the tour equipped to like actually move the show, and Seth Meyers was so good at his job that he just
what he does. Like he's been
directed it without taking over like their spotlight.
Yeah.
Anyway, but before we begin, real quick, there has been a few things I know both of us have watched separately. So, what's something you
well, I always there's always a couple things, but I think the movie of the hour. By the time this comes out, it'll have been out a couple of weeks. But it's getting great reviews. On our tour director finally kind of breaking free of IP shackles for a minute and doing his own thing. Ryan Coogler has returned with Sinners. Great vampire movie. But I do think some people might be surprised if they go in expecting a big like vampire blowout. This is a more character, as you would expect from Coogler, much more character driven, much more has much more to say, much more thematically, but it does pay off the vampire stuff as well. Just really good. I think it's going to be one of those modern classics. You're gonna be hard.
It's getting that praise. I'm going next week.
You're gonna be one of. It's gonna have its contrarians. Every movie does, but
I don't know what it's about. I mean, other than
you'd be hard pressed. Other than the fact that they tell you in the trailer it's about vampires, you don't.
I didn't watch the trailer. I know it's about vampires, and I know the cast, and that's all. Personally, that's all I need. And like I said, I've stayed away from a trailer.
Yeah, that's kind of how I went into it too.
But. So great. No, I'm excited to see that. Yeah, the only thing I kind of want to bring up that I watched, I finally got around, or I guess it's two, but I finally got around to watching the found footage film, The Taking of Deborah Logan. I don't know if you ever caught that.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it was good. It was a little early morning Tubi watch. Creepy, really well done. Always love.
One of those is like, is it dementia? Is something going on with her? Like,
is it all? I could see us covering it on this show at some point if there's enough pull there. But is it Alzheimer's? But the story progresses. I think for the found footage, the acting's pretty good. They use actors you've seen, or at least one of them you've seen before in some things.
Yeah.
So you go, okay, like they're working with it. I liked it. It was I knew people had to say good things about it. I was surprised. The other one I checked out is a couple years ago called I See You with Helen Hunt. And it didn't quite stick its landing. I thought they lost its. I didn't find the concept's terrifying. The movie itself was like far from.
Yeah.
It's about frogging. I don't know if you know what frogging is.
I don't think so.
Someone like people come and try to live in someone's house without them knowing.
Oh.
Very creepy concept, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure. That's creepy, yeah.
But what they do in the bounds with that concept, I recommend the movie, but I also, it's fun.
Yeah, temper your expectations. I gotcha.
Yeah. And then we've watched Y2K.
Over Easter, I always love to get a zombie movie in. I watched Night of the Living Dead. I also watched They Live over the weekend.
That's a great holiday excuse to do a little holiday watch. I never put the two together.
Yeah. I don't remember who brought that up a couple of years ago. I saw somebody talking about it. That's a great excuse to get in a zombie movie. I watched They Live because WrestleMania weekend had me thinking about wrestling and Roddy Piper, so I watched that. And then I did check out, trying to just find some new randomness. I found a little anthology movie, a little horror anthology from 1985.
Which one?
Hold on. Of course, my thing just Night Train to Terror.
I've seen the Chiron. So
the kind of what do you call it? The structural idea of it is on this train. God and the devil are telling each other stories about people who did or didn't deserve to be damned or whatever. Meanwhile, there's a band on the train playing their song over and over again and kind of like going nuts. And the train is going to crash and the band's going to die, and they're there to like collect the souls and whatever. But in the meantime, they're telling each other these stories. And yeah, I don't know if it like fully lives up to that like kind of ambitiousness, but it was fun. Definitely worth a horror night watch, you know, a 90-minute banger. You know, I love a good anthology. I love a fucking horror anthology.
And the rule of a good anthology is if there's 4 stories, like 2 of them have to be good.
Yeah.
If there's 3 stories, I want 1 to be good, another to be okay, and then if the third shit, whatever.
Yeah. Well, like with 3, ideally with 3, you have the Creepshow model, where it's like at least one of them is like an all-time banger. Creepshow 2, I'm talking about, because Creepshow has like 5, I think. The original Creepshow has 5 vignettes, and Creepshow 2 only has 3. But The Raft is like an all-time banger. It's like the one everybody remembers. It's like maybe out of both movies, the number one.
I'm a big fan of. That's the sweet 3.
Yeah.
But if you could do 5, you could do 5. But there's a lot. Like I just checked out the.
Somehow with Creepshow, original Creepshow, there's 5, and some of them still feel long, which is bananas.
Yeah, and they're really speeding through them. I mean, that's like the one that stands out, but in that model is the body bags where they got like John Carpenter, which is a competitor. Like, there's like one good story in there.
Yeah. Body Bags is one of those ones where I was kind of excited to check out, and it underperformed a little bit. You know?
It has that cool poster, and like the streaming sites hype it up a lot.
And obviously, is the idea of John Carpenter as the Crypt Keeper is a great selling point too, but the vignettes don't support it.
No, it's that first one of God, is it Mark Hamill or something?
I think so. I'd be hard to press. I think I've only watched the one.
Or it's someone of like that, and they're in the auto body shop. Like, that's pretty creepy. The rest I do not remember. Love a good horror anthology. I haven't watched any of them. I just watched Tales from the Hood 2.
Oh, nice.
From a couple years, like not too long ago.
Yeah.
And talk about one that once again had like one good story, and then some just did not land. They really leaned into the like social aesthetic of things, but some of it was like, it didn't work. Like,
like a little heavy-handed at times. Not really like.
I forget which historical figure. Like, it was of someone's thing, and you go, this is what we're doing. Okay. Yeah. Like, it's like that. Like, it's not even heavy-handed, it's the hand. Anyway, I'm going to transition over to Y2K now, if that's cool.
Ooh, yeah, actually.
It's already mentioned, we're talking about horror comedy.
Tough balancing act. Often attempted, rarely executed to perfection. You know, there's some great ones out there. Shaun of the Dead, What We Do in the Shadows.
I think this is
Idle Hands. I love horror comedy, but I do think it's attempted more often than it's successful. Obviously, I think there's a lot of people who think horror comedy is easy, and it's not.
Yeah. Sorry. Something kind of rush came through. But yeah, no, horror comedy is such a hard act to follow, but it's also one of the more fun models to watch. Like today, as I said, we were talking before, I had a long day yesterday, and then I went out. Today was like, when I put Y2K on after work this afternoon, I was like, oh, this is nice. This is the nice speed. Instead of like last time we talked, I had, we watched The Brood, where like it just
a more intense watch
doing the show. When sometimes you're like, all right, we're gonna watch this. I was like, all right, and I had full insight. I had watched Y2K during, like, I put it on during work and like absorbed it all, but like didn't retain it and like didn't have the highest opinion of it. it's somewhat changed during this watch, and we'll now talk about it. But
yeah, well, and I should, full disclosure, the reason I wanted to watch it is because I was a big fan of Kyle Mooney's last movie, Brigsby Bear.
Modern masterpiece.
Yeah, I don't one of those ones that not enough people have seen, no matter how many people have seen it, but just a great movie about accepting your past and redefining yourself and finding found family and reconnecting and nostalgia and what makes you who you are and yada yada. I mean, there's just so much in it. It's a very dense tome, but also very beautifully executed in a very fun way.
He really put his what's the word that people, he really put his whole ass into that one.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
like, and you know, it,
by comparison, this idea feels a little more commercial, a little more like sellable.
Yeah,
you know,
and he
like,
wrote,
this one feels like maybe he was like trying to like come up with something that would get bought and get made. You know,
and he wrote Brigsby Bear.
Right. Did he write
or co-wrote, I should say. He wrote and directed Y2K, which also might be why it could have some of its issues.
Yeah, and he didn't direct Brigsby Bear. He wrote Brigsby Bear. Wrote and starred.
That's why I wanted to go check.
Right.
It's directed by Dave McCary. The dude who Emma Stone's married to. That's
okay.
Who was, there's a whole like lore of it, who was a dude on SNL, and I think recently someone was like, yeah, that guy sucks. I forget who told an SNL story and was just like, yeah, maybe it was like Punky Johnson or someone was like, yeah, not a fan. So anyway, there's an SNL connection through that.
Okay, that's fair.
Thing. But
so this is his directorial debut.
This is a directorial debut, and the only thing, sorry, I'm still on Brigsby Bear, and I believe the only thing Kyle Mooney has directed, he's written two things, which is Y2K and Brigsby Bear. I mean, like I said, he co-wrote Brigsby Bear. So full credit, you know, we'll give Mooney full credit on this, but you know, I'll throw my cards off in the first. Definitely a bummer for how great Big Brigsby Bear was.
Oh yeah, this unfortunately doesn't really scratch the surface.
No, this movie, and I mean, you know, we're never a review show, but like,
not that it's trying to be the same thing. I don't want to give that impression, but you know what I mean. It doesn't really even like get into the same ballpark.
No,
it's a movie that good.
This movie's supposed to be fun, and I think that's its goal. Its message is flimsy.
Yeah. And like I said, we're going to get into it. I don't want to, you know, do everything up front, but I also, it's got a framework, but I don't know if they ever flush anything out enough to kind of get you invested in anything.
So we'll just start kind of, it starts very much, it's super bad, right? It starts.
I have the teen movie speed run is the first like act of this movie.
Yeah, it's like the first 20 minutes they're doing the full. I have a similar note of, you know, and it's using the one of the kids from It. Bill.
That I didn't write down his name, but he's playing a character Eli, and then my fucking boy Julian Dennison, who I absolutely love and would watch him in anything.
And guess what happens to this movie?
Oh no! Don't start! Don't do it! Don't say it yet. Let's hold off.
Okay. No.
But he's Danny. We got Danny and Eli. They're very much
Danny.
But
they're doing literally Seth and Evan.
Yeah,
super
they
bad.
Really are.
To a T with
Except
the sex
they're doing that until the point where they go to the party and all of a sudden Danny is just like the man. He's the Mac. He can like they're supposed to be two nerds and then they go to the party and it's like, oh, this dude's not a nerd at all. He rules and everybody loves him and he dances and sings and he makes out with like the hottest chick there and like
she was so hot and then I was like yeah. So he does all that, and it just. And so
I was like, again, it was the speed run. It's like they jumped so fast because they knew
And they were
to get like, I mean, they're establishing. They're like, okay, here we got the two friends. Boom, he's in love with this girl. Here's her.
They're
she's
friends.
She's like not like other girls, cool chick type. She's very, you know, one dimensional.
They're friends with the weird guy who's making him smoke weed, and
the weird video store clerk played by Kyle Mooney, who is like a parody of the Jim Brewer character from Half Baked. He's like way over the top. But everything in this movie is elevated. We're definitely in a Stranger Things style nostalgia of the 90s. This is 1999, but like there's people doing the Macarena in their driveway. That's like a 1996 thing.
But
that's
then there's things that are like 2001, 2002. Like even the ending, and I'll say this note now, even the ending catalyst of things being on a USB drive doesn't make sense for the time period.
Yeah, there wasn't USB that wasn't even a thing in 99, was it?
You're like,
you'd be looking at a CD-ROM probably.
You're looking at a CD-ROM or a floppy still. Like
yeah.
USB drives were fucking expensive if they existed.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even know if it was 90 because anyway, that's too tight. Like that's too in the weeds of like, well, actually.
But that does speak to the kind of like the kind of like the way it doesn't really like rope you in. It doesn't feel real.
It's not trying to be 1999. It's trying to be the 90s.
Yeah, it's just a sit-in for the 90s. Like he's doing a stop motion 70s show or something like with dolls, but that doesn't feel like a like.
Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, you log onto the computer instantly and he's chatting too, and like this is just movie magic from like, oh, nothing was that clear. It wasn't even that clear in 2007.
Yeah, and I did see one of the criticisms I saw before I even saw this movie was that it kind of did this also, but also just kind of paid lip service to it. It's not like they didn't really. They didn't really commit to it enough either. You know, at the same time,
it's.
If you're gonna do it like that, make a point of being really hammer home the 90s shit. You know what I mean? Yeah, make it almost absurdly 90s.
It's not like this is what I'm saying.
Time machine level.
Thank you. Took it out of my mouth. Where they go to the 80s and everyone's doing a reference. Then like Reagan's on the TV giving like the famous speech and like blah blah blah. It's like this is we understand because they're just telling you you're in 1986 or 4 or whatever.
Yeah, but like I said, but this movie's non-committal in either direction. It's not hyper realistic 1999, but it's also not absurd to the point of being any fun 1999.
No, so I actually think the first, in the real world, we'll say, before the robots take over, the movie's strong. Like, I think the coming of age starts off strong enough where I'm like, and I think a lot has to do with the two guys.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, all right, I'm enjoying the movie. Like, sure. I'm having fun with it. I'm like, okay, like, Laura sat for the first 20 minutes before robots came, and then she went for a walk and did things, and I was like, no, this is a movie where you could sit here, but it's generally a comedy. There's some blood, but nothing crazy. But she goes, wait, this is going to turn into a horror movie? I'm like, well, kind of.
It reminded me, I'll tell you, structurally, it reminded me very much of at the World's End with the third in the Cornetto trilogy, where your first part of it is like a movie about, you know, men of a certain age kind of reliving their past and like coming to change who they are as adults. And then it just like turns into an alien movie for some reason. And I always kind of missed the first. I really like the first half. And I was like, man, I'd love to see the end of that movie.
And I think this movie has that issue here. Where you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I do think if they continued on and developed the characters anymore, you know, it could have done it. But later in because of the way it kind of fast forwards through everything, and then the robot apocalypse happens. Then later on, farther down the line in the movie, when they're trying to do like a Breakfast Club, it doesn't really hit because you haven't had those emotional moments you haven't got to spend enough time with those characters. You know?
When you're saying a speed run, right, of that, is the one more point of it is when the boys fight, when he's like, you're making fun of me, like stop, like, you know, blah blah blah. Yeah. It's so quick and resolved in such seconds.
Yeah.
Seconds. that it's like, oh, okay, like, no, like, 'cause it's mimicking Superbad. I know other movies have done it, but like, it's mimicking. It's a clear influence, and you're like, no, that happens, and we spend a long time without, like, Evan goes on his own, Seth goes on his own. Like, naturally, that's what should have happened here, and then the robots hit, and then it's like, wow, I should get back to my friend in some circumstance.
Right, I gotta go save my friend from these.
I was in such a jerk.
Robots.
Right?
I gotta find him.
And maybe they were trying to avoid that trope because we just, but anyway.
I wanted to shout out. There's a couple more characters I want to shout out.
Yeah, run through some of the characters.
There's a couple of bullies, played by Eduardo Franco, who's an actor I love. A lot of fun. He's in Booksmart. I first know him from American Vandal. He was in American Vandal, which is an incredible show.
He makes so much sense in this movie.
Yeah, he's good. And then Lachlan Watson, who played Glenn and Glenda from Chucky. That was my note too. Yeah, I was like, oh, I was glad to see them in this.
Yeah, that's cool. They're really fun to see. And another character where I'm like, I like, and then what do we do with it? I didn't realize that Rachel and Snow White herself, Rachel Zegler.
Rachel Zegler plays Laura, our manic pixie dream girl, although she's not really a manic pixie dream.
They recover the trope from it.
She's more of a not like the other girls type,
Yeah, she's just like, because she's like, well, it's kind of also hard to be popular too. It's more of a curse.
And you're all like, shut up.
And the characters,
that's how they basically react to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like later when they're trying to do what I call a Breakfast Club there, it just doesn't really land. You know what I mean? You don't really have that emotional connection, so they don't really pull it off.
Yeah, Mason Gooding from the Scream movies are in.
He does pop up, yeah. Oh, we should say that. Okay, so we get through our movie speed run.
Tim Heidecker and Elisa Silverstone
are Eli's parents. Yeah,
Seed Stealers.
And also, I like the weird flirty thing with Danny's mom and Eli, and then he's like, "Stop flirting with my mom," and she's clearly the one like, "Oh, you look we're handsome." Yeah. She's like the one flirting with him.
So I have a note of this. This is only in the movies that the friends have a hot mom that just flirt with each other. Every movie always says like, all right.
I have my mom had a friend who.
No, it's different.
Would say stuff like that to me, but like she was also a very little pear-shaped woman. She was not hot.
Oh, I guess I had one friend whose mother was a young mother.
And I had a friend's mom that I thought was hot. We used to make jokes to him about how we thought his mom was hot, but she was never flirting with us.
So I have a more word of that is my one friend's mom was cool because she was young, a lot younger than all of her other parents because she had him it was like a teen pregnancy. So she
was cool.
Yeah, so she
was cool as a teen as well.
Our parents were in their 50s, and she was probably like 40 or 30, and very, very pretty woman. She was so good looking. We did not make fun of him for his mom being hot because it was actually uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was legitimately. Yeah, like that's fair. Yeah.
But she was.
Anyway. So if you're out there, I'm a grown man now, so give me a ring-a-ding-ding.
No, they were very nice people. The one thing else about this cast is weird, and I had to Google it because when I went to Letterboxd, there was one name coming up, and it was this Kid Laroi, and there was some Gen Z singer, I think.
Oh, okay. He played like the boyfriend, not the boyfriend, like a potential boyfriend who like wanted to kind of hook up with Rachel Zegler,
Well, he was like her boyfriend.
No, because Rachel Zegler was dating Jonah, who's the guy from the Scream movies.
No, but she was her she had two boyfriends.
Oh, did she?
That was her ex, the dude from the Scream movie.
And the new guy was like trying to, but they weren't like official.
They weren't official, but they were also like together. That's why they're running away together when it happens. And he's like, "Fuck you! I don't need you any." Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I have no idea who he is. He looks like some shitty, to be honest with you, he looks like some shitty rapper out of Australia that also does rock music. But some, Gen Z 20-year-old stunt casting, I'll call it.
Yeah, sure. No, I saw at the end during the credits that he had a weird name, but I did not know who that was.
No, I found out during the movie, and I'm happy about it. Meaning, I'm glad I don't know these things.
That's fair. And then anyway. So at midnight, a maximum overdrive happens, basically.
Or batteries not included.
Yeah, that's true. That's the cute version. That's adorable.
Maximum overdrive happens. Yeah, this is let's remake Maximum Overdrive, but let's have it make a hair. Let's give a reason, kind of, and more not.
Yeah, a little bit. Also, unlike Maximum Overdrive, where just every individual machine goes crazy, that kind of happens a little bit at the beginning. But also, these machines are their goal is to glom themselves into a humanoid form, kind of, and make themselves a little body.
It actually reminded me a lot of, which again, this is a movie that's taken from other movies, but the Black Friday movie we covered with the director of how it was globbing together as an entity for one within the mall and all that. This had that same nucleus. It just wasn't a bottle episode of a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because first it's a cool introduction of the robot. It's a car robot with a screen.
Yeah, the way they start to build themselves, they always kind of find themselves a monitor first to work as the face, and then they slowly build up the body after it.
Don't ask questions of how it's connecting the things. It just happens.
Yeah, they do show it they do a thing a couple times where wires will kind of go out and grab a new piece of technology and suck it in. I would have liked to have seen a scene where you really see it evolve, where it grows, kind of the Hellraiser scene where he reforms himself. I would have liked to have seen something like that, and I feel they kind of miss a step by not having a scene like that somewhere in this.
One thing and
that kind of might speak to another thing I was going to get into next. We can talk about soon because we're about to get into the horror element of it, and I think that would have helped it be scarier. Because I do feel even though there's the threat of death and plenty of people die, there's also a lot of times where the characters run around and they don't seem afraid at all. They don't seem worried that they're going to ever get seen or caught or jumped by a robot, even though people are dying pretty regularly and in horrific ways.
Yeah, and I mean, you even have there's no fear. They just kind of get to the woods and even the Lachlan. They have a camera and shit, and they're throw it at you, gotta get rid of it. And she's like, nah.
And then they just kind of don't really say anything else about it.
Nothing actually really happens with that camera.
No. We did skip a very important part here that we need to talk about that I stopped from talking about before.
Oh, no. We're not skipping. We were just going.
I was going to say, we're getting you had him almost in the woods.
There's not much meat. There's not much meat here.
No, you're right. We're going to burn through it pretty quick. But one thing I wanted to talk about specifically was this thing that you were about to bring up, which is in the first of the mayhem, in the first attack, we lose Danny already.
From a monster, these big claw monsters and things, and we lose Danny. And this is what I would say is, and the movie dies when Danny dies.
It's pretty. Here's the thing. So this was first. This is first time watch for me.
Yeah,
I'm okay, they've got a plan here. Maybe he dies in right here, but we find he's gonna either maybe the robots will start to bond with people and make these weird homunculuses. He'll come back like that, or there'll be some kind of confrontation. And then a little bit, if we can jump just a little bit later, we find out that there is going to be a thing where the part of the plan of the machines is to assimilate people's brain power to help with computing. So they're going to put chips in humans, which will then help use human brains to give them more computing power, and then they can take over the world. And I was like, so that's what's going to happen. That's where he'll come back.
We'll see Danny big of a personality to lose.
To just lose this soon in the movie. Similarly, directly after this death scene, we also lose our main bully, Eduardo. What is it? Eduardo Franco.
Yeah,
in a way that I was sure he was going to come back, because he gets a knock on the head, and he's bleeding from his head, but it seems like the type of thing he was perfectly primed to come back as some kind of robot zombie.
That they had a fight, and it's fuck you, fuck you, Eduardo.
Yeah.
Like it's a rage. Yeah, I had the same thoughts, Brian, when I first saw like, oh, we're gonna see him at the end.
I was like, well, both these characters feel like they're being set up to come back. But Danny, especially being like the best friend, to lose it. They're basically having their Nick Frost, Simon Pegg big emotional moment at like the 35-minute mark.
The Shaun of the Dead, but we don't get the Shaun of the Dead. We're like, oh, okay, he's there as a zombie, and he kind of feel better about it. Or he has
some kind of resolution where he comes back, and they even set up a thing where I thought people were going to come back. It was so confusing to me.
Yeah,
and again, I try not to judge movies based on what I think they should have done or what they think they should have been, but I really do feel like it felt like a waste to not do something else with him. You know, it just didn't feel like their story was finished.
No, and they're trying to hammer in this like condom joke, like reference thing that just doesn't land.
I mean,
does it pay off
in the plant and payoff respect? I understand what they do with it eventually, even though that's not how latex works. But
does it pay off? Because it was bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Okay, but to be fair, the death scene where he dramatically hands him the condom is kind of funny. I actually found that
it just doesn't.
The whole thing about two teen boys who are obsessed with a condom is kind of silly, but like the dramatic handoff when he is literally dying and he's like giving him the condom.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's kind of funny. And I also thought, even though it surprised me and I thought it was a bit of a waste, the idea of just having Eduardo fall and die immediately was really funny too.
Yeah, I mean that's the joke there, right?
Yeah, he just does he tries to do like a inline skating trick and like grind, and he just immediately cracks his skull and dies. It's funny, but I also do feel like that's a waste because that's a really good actor. You know, he's
but I like that. I think the Eduardo joke layered on top of the Julian passing, dying,
his real dramatic death.
There should have been big separations between there. Like, give us two deaths. I don't know.
They do really happen one right after the other. It's almost immediately the next scene after Julian dies. They're doing the grind.
Big failure because it's kind of hard in a movie to nail the like Julian Denson's like type of character arc where like, oh, the loud comedic relief guy is actually charming and funny in this, and I want to see more of him.
Yeah,
that doesn't always work. Also, we keep bringing up Superbad. Jonah Hill did produce this.
Did he?
A relation there.
Mm.
But. So I think the movie has its moments. For the rest, we're going to talk about it, but I think the shit really dies out because, unfortunately,
everything feels very rushed. We're very much underdeveloped. Everything's just kind of running at full steam. Like we barely have our first blow up and kind of our first encounter, and then as soon as they get to a place where they can overlook the city, everything's in ruins already. It's just like we jumped immediately to full apocalypse.
Yeah, they get right there and they see the apocalypse and they go, I know where we could go. And it's the place that Kyle Mooney said, come by. We're just like lighting candles. Yeah.
And it's already some kind of society. Like they've already
started. Like a scene's cut out of because they're already there. Because when you show up to that scene, right, like Kyle Mooney's doing his introduction, and our Breakfast Club characters are Eli, Rachel Zegler, this like,
oh yeah, we didn't talk about I think like his name's CJ in the movie, and he's like kind of an indie rapper guy,
like indie rapper kid who was like kind of bullied also, and Glenn and Glenda.
Yeah, which is their real. I forget what it's Lachlan Watson. I cannot remember what the character name was.
Ash. So it's
Ash.
It's Eli, Laura, Danny, CJ, and Ash.
Yeah. Only we immediately lose Danny right off the bat.
Yes, I'm sorry. But that's your core.
Yeah.
And you get the introduction. It's fine. Kyle Mooney's kind of good, but then Kyle Mooney goes. He's like, he's buddies with
with Jonah, which is Rachel Zegler's ex.
Yeah, with Jonah, but I'm saying he's also buddies with Eli and Danny, and he's like, "Where's D-Man?" You know, and he's like, "Didn't make it." And that's when, I don't know, for me, that's when I'm like, "Oh, you guys are in this room aware of the robot apocalypse going on."
Right. I agree. It kind of seemed like maybe they didn't even know it was happening.
The interaction was very much not of it was happening. And then that's when he's like, "We got one beer. We could split it. We got this. We got blah, blah, blah."
Yeah. Like they've already like started a little community there. Like,
yeah. And it's real. It's like, you know, he's like, "Oh, that's when the guy from Scream, like, we lost him," and he comes in and he has like a bowl of berries, and
he was out collecting berries.
He's playing the archetype that we see a lot in comedies of here's a very handsome man who's actually like not a dick at all. And,
right, he's actually super nice, like obscenely nice, even though he's also handsome.
Like it would make sense why.
What I call a Joe.
Why Rachel Zegler? You're too kind. Why Rachel Zegler would be like, "Yes, what do you mean? This is just this lovely man that I'm dating."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they never really like try to figure out a reason why she broke up with him, because why would you?
Yeah, and I mean, but they're there, right? And there's just like, and then Eli's computer finds them.
Yeah, there's been a robot following them. We saw it a little bit in the woods as they were making their way there, and like it shows up. And I do like the way that like the Jonah character just kind of sees it. He's like, "Oh, hey," and just like immediately takes care of it and like ropes it up and brings it in. And it's just like kind of nonplussed by it.
That was a funny bit.
Like I said, I feel like that's like if it's supposed to be a joke that everything is happening really quickly and they're just like advancing into an apocalypse plot, like it would have been great to find a way to kind of like express that a little bit more. That like. Everything was moving so fast that, like, you know,
it's sloppy.
I don't know. I guess I don't know if it was if he was doing it on purpose. You know,
it's sloppy. It's sloppy. It's just sloppy. Yeah. I almost don't think it was on purpose. I think it's like, this is funny. This is working. Probably had a minimal budget. I do give it real big props for like they used a lot of practical effects.
Yeah, again, I like the practical creature creations. I maybe would have liked to have seen a little more like an assembly moment, like becoming. But that's not a dig. That's just a thing.
So they're like interrogating his computer.
It's basically an excuse to do an exposition dump. They do a little exposition dump,
and it does, and it says the exposition dump, and this thing that says, "You guys are doomed. You have enough technology, and we're seeing you kill yourselves with it. So now we're gonna stop you before you can and enslave you all."
Yeah,
that is.
And this is again where I thought the part of the plan is like round up all the humans, stick a chip in their head, use their brains as extra computing power to help them take over the world.
They kind of start doing that at the end, like
you see that process finally. But again, at this point I was like, this is how they're going to bring back Julian Dennison in the end to have a big like moment with him. This will be the way.
And he got stabbed through like here, Julian Dennison. He got stabbed through like the kind of like
he got like opposite side of his heart. Basically, like through the lung on the opposite side of his heart, probably, like over on this side.
No attempt to be like, we should go to a hospital. They're like, this is clearly happening everywhere in the world. We got to run.
Yeah.
But so they do that, and we do learn with this is Rachel Zegler is like a computer whiz hacker girl.
Yeah.
And they're like, she's like, maybe I could get into it and figure something out, but she was like, I got to work on it. And they basically come up with the plan, Independence Day plan of let's put a virus to the main central nervous system of the computer.
But you forgot they also do a convoluted thing where he says he loves her to save her life, but then he gets mad at her for no reason, and they have to leave and go in separate directions.
Yes. I'm sorry.
They can meet back up literally like 30 seconds later.
He calls her by her web
tag
chat name.
Web chat, yeah. And that's how he tells the computer who she is.
That's Roxy Girl. That's Roxy Girl 4. Oh, there's some lines in this, and.
But anyway, and then for some reason they have a convoluted fight so that they can split up, even though they don't see. The only reason thing that happens while they stay split up is that's when she creates the virus.
Well, and he says, I'm going to go out there and fight because this is what Danny would have wanted. And Danny's not a person who sits around.
Yeah, which is fine, but he didn't have to fight with her like for no reason. Like it was just really dumb. It was like a really dumb, convoluted nothing of a like we need to have a moment with drama between us.
So they go. The kids go off in the woods in this, and they another robot attacks them there. And guess who's there? I'm sorry. Guess who kind of saves the day? Snow White and Kyle Mooney.
and then we are mercifully spared any more of Kyle Mooney's character in this movie.
Kyle Mooney's character goes, okay, well, I guess that's enough of this character. Let me just unnecessarily have my moment to pour drugs in my mouth and fight.
Yeah, he throws a bunch of drugs in his mouth and is going to like throw down with this robot and immediately gets murdered, which is funny.
Yeah, that was a funny bit to me. And I'm like, but you're right, we're spared that because it's like, oh, okay, but it really did feel like, and we're just checking this box that your character's time is out, but we don't have a clever way to get rid of you.
No.
So you're gonna just run headfirst with the baton joke you've been trying to land for the last couple of minutes. So they do that and they go and I don't know. Eli has a freak out over his shoes for some stupid reason.
Well, remember they get in the porta potty and the porta potty falls down the hill because they got to do a jackass because of 90s, you know. So they fall down the hill in the porta potty, and then when they get out of that, he has the sing Chumbawamba again because of 90s, I guess.
Because of 90s.
And then he has a freak out about his shoes, which inspires them to go back to the video store. We don't really understand why, but it's to pay off a bit that you see, which is that Kyle Mooney's character has an extra pair of Birkenstocks there that he switches into when he smokes weed. He like has his working Birkenstocks and then he changes them. It's just a weird thing that they show you earlier, and then it kind of gets paid off when the kid goes back and gets those sandals.
But the kid goes, and maybe I missed something. I know he was just like upset about his shoes, but I don't remember that being a point in the movie about
somebody earlier in the movie mentions his shoes because they're like a name of a person, and he doesn't, and then he says he doesn't know who that is, and it's a skater, and he's like, I don't really like skating. Like again, it's another one of those beats that doesn't really land because everything's a little rushed, a little underdeveloped.
So he goes, he's like, I know where to get new shoes instead of going anywhere else. Like it's the payoff. There's been a big Limp Bizkit undertone of this whole movie. I mean, it's once again, when I tell you, when the movie dies, when Danny dies, the movie says, we're going to stop being a movie when Fred Durst comes. And then they just said, hey, we're going to do a bunch of sketches, a bunch of bits with Fred Durst to the end of the movie. Because that's what it felt like.
Yeah. It
was like, hey, we have Fred
they were
now.
Trying to do, like, they were trying to do that thing like in This Is the End when the Backstreet Boys show up in heaven, kind of, you know. They wanted to have that, like, nostalgia moment with Limp Bizkit, but it didn't really land.
Can we compare this to Is the End also here real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Is the End.
That's a great movie. Great horror comedy.
Tells its story, though, right? Does it? And then all of these, not in the intro, but the later cameos in the apocalypse and this, they're not the main. They're there for a cameo to tell the joke and get the fuck out of the movie.
Yeah, what I expected to happen, what should have happened is they're sitting around, Fred Durst is talking, and then he immediately gets killed, and then they're like, and then they run off. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
The Bill Murray in Zombieland kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, no, Fred Durst is your main character at this point, where Ash, Lachlan's character, they're like, you're my hero, this and that.
Take my hat. She does the thing from Adventures in Babysitting where she gives the Thor his helmet, you know?
But, okay, about that hat. How big was their fucking head?
To fit on Fred, then it fit perfectly on Fred Durst.
It's a fitted hat. It's not like this I'm wearing right now. This is a flex fit. This will fit.
I mean, she had a little poof of hair under there that was helping fill that out a little bit.
That is a tiny person.
They are a very tiny
person. I've seen them, especially in Chucky as Glenn. They are a tiny person.
That's fair.
Fred Durst it was there. I get the bit, but fitted hats are like I would not be able to wear your fitted hat comfortably. And then it was kind of big on Fred Durst. Like there was room.
Yeah, it made his ears kind of like look a little. Yeah, it didn't look like it fit him very good either.
Like I said, I get it because you were looking at it going, oh, I know it's going to happen. Especially he's playing bald.
Yeah.
And like I said, his intro moment was kind of funny of like, oh, everyone's dead, and he name drops like the famous guitarist.
Wes Borland, who then they have a fake Wes Borland later pop up, which I think is really funny.
That was a fake Wes Borland? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's real Wes. That was real Wes Borland. I think that's why he was all made up to look like 90s Wes Borland.
Gotcha.
So that we would not notice it wasn't the real guy. They meet Fred Durst in the video store, and they talk to him, and they make a plan. Lachlan Watson inspires him, and they make a plan. They're going to go to the school to where like the central computers where they're assimilating people and stuff, and upload her virus. Now again, like they're infiltrating the central hub. There are big hulking Terminator-sized big mongoloid robot kind of creatures everywhere. But there never feels like any real danger. No, they get into the building super easy. They're just walking up and down the halls, kind of like cash. Like
they get right because Lachlan and Fred Durst are like, we'll go distract him and sing on stage.
Yeah, we get a lovely unplugged version of Faith.
Yeah, nice. That was fun.
I enjoyed it. I sang along.
Like the robots, just like the Clone Wars robots, just like, that's what they reminded me of.
Yeah.
Just like watched them. You're like, oh yeah, whatever. We were murdering and turning, but you're at the school now.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we see them put the people through the machines and getting the chips in their head, and again, none of those comebacks that you would expect.
Now Tim Heidecker gives us, and we get to see Tim Heidecker again, which is just nice.
We get to see Alicia Silverstone smoke weed at the very end. That was
cool.
Yeah, we love that. That's funny stuff.
So Rachel Zegler
is doing some very Jurassic Park style hacking. And they got the weird like 3D. I did kind of like that because
I did.
It was very much that 90s thing of they didn't know how to like show the internet or how to show people using the internet.
There's always like, imagine if someone moved on, password denied, and it'd be like a big jail lock and like funneling through. No. Those were fun touches in the movie. Like I knew what Kyle Mooney was doing there. And Kyle Mooney was going, do you remember
Lawnmower Man?
Yeah, Lawnmower Man, or like even like Blank Check seems very like, or what's another one of those kids ones where they First Kid.
Yeah,
like that. Hackers like had weird internet scenes of like kids on a computer communicating, and they had to show how the computer. So I like those touches.
Yeah, like I said, I like the way her 90s hacking, Jurassic Park hacking was going. And I liked seeing Lawnmower Man. I liked seeing him do DX Suck It. That was funny. That's all that. Like I said, I actually feel like they should have leaned more into that. Like really like make it like annoyingly 90s. You know what I mean?
There's a Letterboxd review of someone who I'm friends with who did like the movie a lot more than us. But his review was like, we only got one DX Suck It. This should have been done like 15 times, like someone running around doing like 15 times in the movie.
Yeah, that seems like a prime thing for Julian Dennison to be doing.
Oh my God. But I would say with the movie. So yeah, I mean, we're at the wrap up. They plugged the thing in, all the fucking.
Well, remember we talked about the condom. That's the big payoff. There's electricity. The way they like get through the electricity to plug in the USB is that she has she puts the condom over her arm. Which again, I'm not sure the latex would really work that way, but I get what they were going for. Yeah, I get what they were going with.
The movie had lost me so much already. Then with like questionable moments, that I was like, yeah, it But they're there. They have their the Buffy the Vampire ending. I mean, also how how fucking rich was this school that they were upgrading to the broadband internet in 2000?
In 1999 to 2000, yeah, no kidding.
Like we skipped DSL.
Bougie as hell, just like.
You talk about the other day with some friends. It was like, because it came up naturally, like dial-up internet. We were saying to someone younger, we're like, "Oh yeah, good at that." And I said, "You didn't go right from DSL to like cable internet. You went from you went from dial-up to DSL,
yeah,
to then cable, like broadband internet. Because the DSL was like, oh, you're using your phone line, but you could still use your phone."
Yeah.
And the computer. It's a little faster too. I don't know if you remember, like.
Oh, I remember. I went through all these. I was on every stage.
And then, so like, it was just funny.
Not to date myself, kids, but I graduated high school in the year 2000. So I was a senior during Y2K.
You were these kids.
I was these kids. I went to a party on Y2K and waited to see if something happened. It just didn't.
So what? Okay, because there were so many. What are like 3 inaccuracy or like things you wish you would have seen them drum up that you'd be like, no, that would have nailed the time period more of like Y2K?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Being the exact age too, right?
Yeah, the Fred Durst Family Values hits. That's right. You know, that's perfect. You know, 1999. I'm trying to think what. You know, I don't know. Nah, I don't know what I wanted to do better because I was just, like I said, I almost feel like making it ultra realistic 90s wouldn't have been noticeable enough. They would have almost had to have gone like really over the top.
Because how old are you, Brian?
Oh God, 43.
Okay, so Kyle Mooney's 40. I just wanted to see where we were.
So he was probably like a freshman or something when that happened. You know,
we're 10 years apart. Yes, that's okay. Yeah, so I was like wondering, watching it, going, oh, okay. Like, I feel like there were things, and I'm not gonna check my notes anymore, where it was like, I even knew we're like, oh, this is fairly inaccurate. Once again, it's a movie about robots coming alive. Let's not.
Well, yeah, like I said, I feel like they just should have bleeded into it more. Like, go ahead and just overdo it. Like, make it too 90s. You know,
you want them to be. Would you want you want to get somewhere in the middle of the line where it's not like the Goldbergs where they were like, we can't commit to years, so we just say in 1980 something, that way we could show it was. That's how they got around me. Like, we're gonna make a reference about something that happened in 1989 or 1986, and it doesn't matter. So
I always personally thought the 70s show made a big mistake by like having a episode about Star Wars coming out in their first season. It's like, so you're pretty much locked down that you're actually in the late 70s. So how are you what if you have all these seasons? You got like 8 seasons. What year is it now?
Oh man. Yeah, that's a tough. I also don't
the way it works out in that show is that every season's more like a half a year. So.
Yeah, that's usually what those do. Yeah. The worst example, we'll kind of wrap up from this.
What are you talking about? We got so much to say about Y2K that we're talking about the release schedule of the 70s show.
Well, I was gonna say the worst example that was going going around this winter on Netflix with the time travel body movie that Netflix put out where she went back.
3 Body Problem, is that it?
No, it was the one that wasn't totally killer, not the one. It was like a serial killer back in so forgettable. Killer time travel movie. It's an Ants Bugs Life situation, right?
Oh, okay.
Totally Killer Time Cut.
Okay.
So Totally Killer was the Amazon version.
Yeah, I remember Time Cut was the one people were making because it was taking place in the early 2000s when people were ripping it up because it was just so nondescript or whatever.
So that one.
Yeah.
I would say this is the Y2K is much better doing their time period of this. Time Cut literally does things where you're like, these are years after 2003 that you're being like, I love the new Britney Spears or whatever they're trying to say. So that was one of the worst examples ever. Like, I know every girl was like, these girls wouldn't be allowed to walk around school and fucking like the trendy clothes of the time that were like scandalous, especially back then. Like every school's like, okay. Anyway, yeah. So Y2K, I think it's obvious as a bummer. I think it's a bummer because it could.
Oh, we didn't talk about the final scene though. We fast forward to a Fred Durst future. Where Fred Durst has become the prince, like 2005, and Fred Durst is the fucking president. And they go to Danny's grave, and I kept expecting a button here, and there really isn't one. Except that the virus is alive, except that the thing is alive in her iPod.
Yeah. New technology, right, has come up. Like these iPods, and the kids are still together. It's 5 years later. The kids are still together. They're going to graduate college. And we get Fred Durst is like this big politician, but also the kid like Ash works in the music industry with Fred Durst still because they help save the world together, and like Fred Durst gets into politics because he was credited with saving the world.
Saving the world, right? He got to take the credit. I do, and then of course the movie really ends with they almost saved it, honestly, which is Julian Dennison doing a thong song video, which is so funny. He's literally dressed like Cisco.
I missed
you must have shut it off. It's like mid-credit, it's like a mid-credit scene or whatever, and they basically have Julian Dennison fully in the white Cisco outfit doing the thong song. So like I said, honestly, almost saved the movie.
I will go back and watch that because that actually sounds. But that is This is
probably the worst review we've done on anything on the show. We haven't. We're not usually this hard on stuff
in a long time.
And the thing is, I didn't hate it. It's like I wouldn't even like tell people not to watch it because some people might really like it. Actually,
no, I think they agree. I think there is going to be a big lane of people that would be like, "Oh no, I found that really fun. I get it."
I could see this having a pretty good life on streaming. This could be a movie that people watch on streaming a lot.
Excuse me, I don't mean to be yawning. It just didn't work. It just didn't. It falls apart. I'm like,
well, I think unfortunately the structure's just not there. There's not enough built into the characters to really commit to. Everything feels so rushed and kind of like fast forwarded that you never really have a chance to feel anything, whether it's fear and then like everything feels rushed, but also, okay, say you're going to rush things and you're going to underdevelop your characters. Well, then that time needs to be filled with like crazy action sequences or like crazy horror scares or like a insane thing where we see the robot creating itself in a cool special effects moment. Like if you're not spending time building up these characters, what are you doing with that time? Why don't I, you know what I mean? Why isn't there more to this?
There's nothing to care about the characters because like she's enjoyable to watch. The kid who plays Eli is not a leading man at all.
Well, and they're all so like they're obviously meant to be stereotypes, but unfortunately that also it's like okay, but you didn't do anything to like add to the stereotype.
No, but like let's compare
to, like, glom onto beyond the very basic archetype of bully, nerd kid, nerdy friend but who's slightly more outgoing, girl who's cool enough to date a nerd, but also way too good for this nerd. You know what I mean? These are all like I said, these are all super bad characters.
Well, let's compare it like the nerd, because he's the lead of the movie, Eli to Michael Cera.
Yeah,
and like Michael Cera does have a charm and a humor to him, that
quiet charisma. Yeah,
even though he's meek and nerdy looking, like that's this kid. Because it worked in it because he played the scared kid who was going to stand up. This movie, I think they literally cast it because he physically looked the part.
Right. Yeah.
But, I think I walk away from that movie
trying to cast big guy, skinny guy. Like,
yeah, I look away that movie going, okay, Danny and Rachel Zegler, or Julian and Rachel Zegler, you guys have the charisma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know his name, the kid who plays Eli, like. I know the characters of the two couples supposed to stay together.
Yeah.
You're not. You're friends.
Agreed.
You're friends.
I would like to see Rachel Zegler end up with Ash.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice. They kind of had a moment at the end.
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but Ash, they were into the boy who died, the rapper.
Well, yeah. Well, also they have again when they're trying a couple times. They like I said, I feel guilty because I do feel like they take some moments. They do try to have a sit down moment with her, and he kind of talks to her about the way the bully guy treated her, and like how she didn't deserve that, or did ask about how she felt about that, and she talks about how maybe she doesn't even like guys, she doesn't, and it's like,
oh yeah,
it's nice to like get those moments, but I don't feel like, again, in a whole movie, that one moment isn't enough to like propel that that character into something that like really that you really care about.
Yeah,
it's a nice moment, but I just don't think there's enough.
No, it's the movie trying, and a lot of even though Kyle Mooney wrote this, and I think this comparatively does this. Gen Z really likes the 90s.
Yeah.
And I think what they're trying
it was the last golden era.
Yeah, and I think Gen Z, like, they're also trying to bleed their
like if MAGA meant the late 90s, almost there. Like just slightly better, like in the racial and like and like gay stuff, and like the 90s would have been okay.
That's what I'm saying. There's definitely like, and I think it's a fun and good thing for movies like this and storytelling, like rewrite the history to be like, there were non-binary people and things like that in the 90s and the 70s. It's like, no, that wasn't in the lexicon.
Yeah.
People might have existed, but like it wasn't in the lexicon.
But that terminology didn't exist.
And like you've seen that in these movies. I've seen that, and not just this in general, being like retroactively add to be like, hey, we're not using homophobic slurs to call our friends and things. They're like, no, you very much were.
Yeah.
And it's good that they're not in this. It's good that
it's the kind of like overly cautious thing of like, I remember feeling that way about it, where it's like, it almost feels pointed when they have the bullies not using racial slurs about the black kid. It's like, no, they would fully be using some horrific racial slurs. And I'm not saying I want to hear them, but It did give me pause for a minute where I was like, that doesn't quite feel genuine, because I feel like these kids are so horrible, they would fully obviously be throwing racial slurs.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's really fair.
No, I'm fine, again, with them not playing it, but it does give me pause for a moment, and it does kind of break the immersion to where I'm like, I can't believe that kid didn't drop the N-bomb on that guy. I knew a million kids like that, and they all said those words.
Yeah, it's good, but yeah, you're seeing that a lot in the Gen Z making their movie.
But that's okay. Movies are fantasy. They can be about the world you want to see. They don't have to, portray everything exactly perfectly.
Of course.
It's fine.
No, it's good. It works. Like I said, I wanted to love this movie. I wanted it to be like.
I definitely know that a rewatch of Brigsby Bear's on the horizon.
I was gonna have the same thing, and I wanted to make sure that like the sorry, the.
It's
no, I'm just getting to the point of talking. I wanted to make sure it's one of those ones where you're like, oh, this would have been cool if this was a weird A24 that like I could like, yeah, that's also another notch in their cap. We're ready to go. But I think Kyle Mooney still has it in him to put out some cool shit.
I said, I feel like this one still has a chance to be popular on streaming, and I think I definitely wouldn't discourage people from giving it a chance, because I think there are a lot of people who would like it. And I don't even necessarily think it was a bad movie. I just think it didn't hit for me. Yeah. And there were some places where if it would have been shored up, it really could have been a banger,
Mm-hmm. So, we'll see.
Hey, maybe next time, we'll watch something that doesn't suck.
I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good for us that we watch something that we're actually like we're always honest, but honest and not even I'm not even trying to find the great in it. I'm just like, no, this didn't land, and it could have been great. That's, I think, the biggest problem with this.
Absolutely.
A horror comedy takes place on This Is the End takes place on Y2K is a great concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like the idea of like, what if Y2K actually did happen?
Yeah.
And then even extrapolating that further to be like, and it made crazy robots. That's fun.
Yeah.
Like that's a fun bit.
I think the way to maybe go about this, if it ever someone again is gonna do this again, maybe not the exact. I think it's to go more not as full dramatic, but more horror, almost more in the tone of like, in a weird way, even though it's a horror comedy, Shaun of the Dead's tone, where it does let these characters breathe. It is hysterical, but they let the horror fully happen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But anyway, that's it for now.
Thanks for taking this journey with me, Joe.
Yeah, I'm always happy to. All right. As always, everyone.
One more plug, everybody. Go watch Brigsby Bear.
Go watch Brigsby Bear, and maybe this if you want. If you listen to the end.
Yeah, you might like this too. Give it a shot. Who knows?
Stay frightful. Bye.